Fáilte Rovisteach go Suantraí Íosa, where we look at the readings for tomorrow, the 4th of July, in the year 2021, the 14th Sunday of the year. The Gospel tomorrow is challenging. Jesus went to his own hometown and his disciples accompanied him. With the coming of the Sabbath, he began to teach in the synagogue, and most of them were astonished when they heard him. They said, "Where did this man get all of this? What is this wisdom that has been granted him, and these miracles that are worked through him? This is the carpenter's son, surely the son of Mary, the brother of James and Joseph and Jude and Simon. His sisters too, are they not all here with us?" And they would not accept him. And Jesus said to them, "A prophet is only despised in his own country, among his own relations, and in his own house." And he could work no miracle there, though he cured a few sick people by laying his hands on them. He was amazed at their lack of faith. We find in the sacred scriptures Jesus being amazed at the presence of faith and also amazed at the lack of faith. We've seen how amazed he was at the centurion having the gift of faith, and how Christ delights in the fact that the centurion at some level was already under the influence of the Holy Spirit and responding to the Holy Spirit. Here we have the opposite. Christ and God's amazement at people refusing. My father used to say, there is none so blind as those who do not want to see. There's a scene in C.S. Lewis's book, The Final Battle, where there are a group of people in the presence of God, and they just, no, God doesn't exist, so he can't be real. It's an illusion. The lack of faith in the world today is at a crisis. We're living in a faithless generation. But faith allows us to open the door to love, the love of God. And that's why faith is so important, and that's why it's so important we give faith to our children and our grandchildren and our neighbours by the example of our lives. Always be ready, St. Peter tells us, to give a reason for the faith that you have, but give it with a modicum of humour. I think that's very important. The second reading tomorrow is very beautiful. In fact, I meditated on it for over a year at one stage. It contains the beautiful reading 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9. "My grace is sufficient for you, because my power is perfected in your weakness." Will you listen to that for a moment? My faith is enough for you, says God, because my power is perfected in your weakness. What we bring to the equation with God is our weakness, our brokenness, and he brings the power of love into that situation. And it's wonderful. And of course, in the first reading, we have the story of the Lord sending the prophet Ezekiel and saying, even if it is a faithless generation, they will have the witness of someone who is a believer in God and witnesses to God's love in the world. It is powerful. The faithlessness of people brings a judgment on themselves. The judgment is that they are cut off from so many possibilities of love and joy. It's a joyless generation that is a faithless generation. In the midst of us, let us shine out like light in darkness. Paul says in writing to the Philippians that you and I, we should shine out like stars in the midst of this generation. So let's do that, and let us be confident that God is using our witness for his benefit while he increases in us in spite of our weakness. 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9, "My grace is sufficient for you, because my power is perfected in your weakness." Do not be afraid. Have great courage. The love of God will conquer all. Slán agus bannaigh dé ar éibh go léir.